It is by no accident that you are watching me today. I believe that it's time for you to learn some tips and tricks as to how to thrive in a toxic workplace. I'm waiting to hear. Are you ready to learn how to thrive in a toxic workplace? I want to hear, yes, I am. I didn't hear it. Yes, I am. Okay. Now I am convinced that you are ready to learn how to thrive in a toxic workplace. Imagine stepping into your workplace every single day, feeling like you're walking into a storm where negativity swirls, tension crackles in the air, and every interaction feels like dodging lightning bolts. Or in some instances, you might feel as if you're in the matrix, dodging negativity, left, right, center, every direction. Workplace toxicity is real and it can shake even the strongest among us. But here's the truth. Storms don't last forever, and neither does workplace toxicity. Today, we're not just talking about surviving a toxic workplace. We're talking about thriving in the midst of it. Because no matter how fierce the storm, you have the power to rise above it, protect your peace, and come out of it stronger than ever. Let's step into the eye of the storm, find our strength, and learn how to navigate all the way through it, not just to make it through it. Let's take a trip down memory lane. When I was a young professional, I had my own nemesis. In my family, she's known as the Dragon Lady, or as my twin boys used to call her, the Gremlin. By a show of hands, who has someone in their workplace by the mere fact of just thinking about them or hearing their name makes you cringe? Or perhaps just hearing their footsteps coming down the hallway make you want to run in the opposite direction. Does this sound familiar? Uh, Maybe it's just me. Or is it? I want you to really think about it. I imagine either you or someone you know a gremlin or someone in your workplace that just makes you cringe or makes your blood boil. I want to take this a little bit further. Let's be more concrete about what a toxic workplace is, just in case we're not all on the same page. A toxic workplace is defined as infighting, intimidation, and other behaviors that harm productivity. The American Psychological Association in 2023 provided this definition of a toxic workplace. It also includes negative, antagonistic, or bullying behavior that is weaved in the workplace culture. A workplace that rewards bullying behavior by management and promote accountability by senior leadership. Now let's think about that. Workplace that rewards bullying behaviors by management and promote accountability. I just used the Uno reverse card on you. In a toxic workplace environment, management does not promote accountability with bullying behaviors. It actually happens in reverse. Management and the senior executives, they actually promote diminished accountability in a toxic workplace. In other words, management and senior leaders are usually a part of the bullying behaviors. They're a part of the toxic workplace culture. Hence, when bullying happens, they're typically a part of it whereby they're doing the bullying behaviors or turning a blind eye towards the bullying. There is zero accountability by management, zero accountability by senior leadership. Does this sound familiar? Does your workplace sound like this? I know I can't be the only one. In addition to that, a toxic workplace also causes employees to feel very devalued. They feel as if they don't belong. I want you to take a moment and let's go down memory lane a little bit. Are you with me? I'm leaning in to make sure that we're on the same page. Are you ready to go down this memory lane with me? Are you ready? I'm tapping in. Okay. I remember being a young professional and I walked into a room with two senior male executives. Let's call the first one Captain Cringe. He made me feel as if I did not belong, my opinions did not matter, and that I did not represent the organization's vision of the future. The other executive, let's call him Mr. Manners. He interacted with me in a professional manner when I shared ideas about possible ways of collaborating and finding solutions to the challenges that our organization was facing at the time. He smiled and looked refreshed by my fresh perspective. He implored me to share more about my thoughts and feelings. And he genuinely made me feel as if my opinions were valued. While I was having this interaction with Mr. Manners, Captain Cringe kept rolling his eyes, looking sideways, breathing heavily every time I provided a response. At one point, I was wondering, maybe I smelled? I did the smell test. It wasn't me. I didn't smell. I knew my ideas were valid because it was in alignment with our policies and procedures, and it did not cause harm to our employees or the client population. I could not understand why he was opposed to at least hearing my opinion. My mentors and prior leaders made me feel as if I had a voice and that my opinion mattered. In addition to that, my credentials demonstrated that I had the skill set and the knowledge base to be able to make informed decisions. I was completely disgusted by the feeling that he made me feel during that interaction. I had never felt like that before. And more importantly, I was wondering what impact that interaction would have on my future employment in the agency, given that Captain Cringe was one of the top and senior executives in my department. I tried multiple times afterwards to make a positive impression on him. Despite my best efforts, everything seemed futile because he distanced himself even more from me. For several days, my light was dim. I kept wondering, should I find another job? Should I transfer to a different department? Am I really qualified to be in my position? After 2 days passed, one of the female senior executives approached me and said, and for this interaction, we'll call her Miss Elevate. She knocked on my door. Oh. I recognized her voice. Oh, Miss Elevate, you came to see me. Her voice and her effervescent smile parted the sea of darkness that was all over my body and my aura. As we sat down and I explained to her what happened in my interaction with Captain Cringe, she informed me that she had heard multiple stories about him. And then she continued as follows: Josephine, don't worry about Captain Cringe. You're not the only one that he has been dismissive or inappropriate with. It's not you, it's him. Josephine, remember this. You are enough. You have nothing to prove to Captain Cringe or anyone else. You are enough. You are powerful, you are smart, you are beautiful, and you can and will do this job. Don't work to prove anything to anyone else. Do your best to ensure that you are making a difference and you're elevating your staff and yourself. Due to this, my head was held high again, and I continued walking, the bounce in my step. She renewed my strength. She refilled my cup that was almost empty. And from that moment moving forward, I never looked back. I was mindful to be able to create effective and healthy boundaries and protect my peace. Has anyone had a similar experience? Now let's take a moment and unpack a toxic workplace a little bit more. That way we can really go in, unpack it, and then develop some tips and tricks along the way. Some key signs about a toxic workplace are similar to what I experienced. Employees are not truly valued at all. Zero value. In addition to that, guess what happens in these organizations? Come on. Tell me what you think. What happens? There are multiple cliques that occur, and they tend to alienate and promote unhealthy behaviors. Does that sound familiar to you? Let's think about that for a little bit. Cliques that alienate and promote unhealthy behaviors? What does that sound like? Does that sound familiar? That sounds a bit similar to elementary school or high school, or perhaps even college. I imagine most of you are thinking, by the time that you are adults, that you would no longer face bullying because that's a behavior that children do. However, for those of us who have worked in a toxic workplace, we know very well that bullies are also in the workplace, and they're both male and female. In addition to that, some very key signs of a toxic workplace is when there is weak or no accountability mechanism in place by the human resources department or senior leadership. Does that sound familiar? For me, it definitely does. Let's unpack it a little bit more. What do you think happens if you have employees that are not valued, low to zero accountability, or in my particular scenario, staff who do not want to go to work? We try to hide or get to know a really good doctor. Yes, what typically happens is that there's a high burnout or turnover rate in a toxic workplace because it's related to a low morale. Employees also are feared that if they don't form a clique, that they're not going to be able to get promotions. Hence, there are fear-based tactics used to incentivize promotions, and that is very unhealthy. Management also tend to block paths to promotion. Has that ever happened to you before? You've done everything that you possibly could do in order to get that coveted promotion. You went to school and got the requisite degree. You took the professional development training program and got the required certificates or trainings. You became a content expert in your field. You show up for an interview with your credentials, confidence, and your amazing communication skills. Yet, you do not get the job because you're not a part of the clique. Unfortunately, that happened to me once when I was a young professional as well too. 2 years after receiving my master's degree, I wanted to be able to get a promotion. I was informed by a senior leader that I could become a level 2 supervisor without completing 1 full year of being a supervisor because I already knew the job and I was answering all the questions in our joint meeting where the level 2 supervisor knew no answers. The only thing that I had to do was to snitch on the level 2 supervisor. At that particular time, I was a level 1 supervisor. I had a very close bond with a level 2 supervisor. I knew that he was facing some family challenges at the time, and 2 of his staff were not able to complete their work timely. Instead of snitching or sharing with upper leadership what the challenges were, because of my integrity, I collaborated with him. I worked on the challenging work areas And I worked with those two staff that he was struggling with to build their capacity and help them to learn different tips as to how to effectively do their job. My level two supervisor was completely ecstatic with my perspective and my level of integrity. I did not get that promotion at that particular time because I refused to share information that will be damaging to a level two supervisor that could potentially lead to him being terminated or suspended. Instead, I held my integrity and I built the capacity of the staff. And I also learned additional supervisory skill set in order to be a future leader at my organization. On paper, that looked amazing. However, in reality, when we were in meetings, the senior executives would give me the cold shoulder. They would not share certain information when I entered spaces where they were. That did not deter me at all because I knew that I was enough and that I was valued and that they did not define me. Let's take a little bit more time to unpack what happens in these environments. I want you to really, really think about it. And I'm reaching in again. Think about it a little bit. How do you handle the storm of a toxic workplace? What do you do? What about you? What do you do? Great answer. And you, what do you do? Okay. In my experience as a licensed social worker and a leader with over 15 years of experience, building assertiveness and conflict resolution skills are important in being able to ensure that you're able to thrive in a toxic workplace. I recall having a supervisor in the past, the same dragon lady that I mentioned earlier. And the dragon lady is still infamous in my family because she is someone who would take every opportunity to be able to make herself look good while others looked really, really bad. I recall her calling me at 8 o'clock at night, very early in the morning, or trying to schedule meetings very close to my lunchtime. There was one particular time when she scheduled a supervisory session with me, and at that particular time, I was a new manager at 11 a.m. with an end time of 12 noon. On paper, that looked really great. I saw the agenda that she emailed to me, and I was immediately taken aback. She had 10 items on the agenda. And in my experience with her, there was just no way that she would finish everything in 1 hour. However, I decided to give her the benefit of the doubt and be able to have that supervision with her. 30 minutes within our supervisory session, the storms and the rain came tumbling down. I then said to her, Miss D, and we'll utilize that name for this purposes. We are halfway through our planned supervision and we've only completed 4 of the agenda items. Is it possible for you to maybe consider extending our supervision for the afternoon because I really need to have lunch at 12 noon? Miss D responded by saying, nope, we're not doing that. Our supervisory session is going to end at 12 noon. We're not staying until 12 noon and then meeting again in the afternoon. I'm not doing that. Nope, nope, nope. Even though I was taken aback by that feedback, I was not perturbed. I smiled, breathed deeply, and said, Miss D, thank you for sharing your perspective. Moving forward, I will not respond to any questions asked. I will remain in the supervisory session. However, you will not get any feedback from me. Is that okay with you? She scoffed. The supervisory session continued, and I said 0 words. My lips were completely sealed. I allowed my silence to speak for me. I smiled and at different intervals pursed my lips while looking at her. Once 12 noon arrived, I took 0 notes in our meeting. And I kept looking at my watch. The silence continued until we finally completed our supervisory session at 1:30. When she shared that our meeting had ended, I relayed to her, in the future, I would like to be given options as to when we can meet to have supervision, because it is disrespectful for us to have a meeting during my lunch period. During my lunch period, a meeting will not be effective as I'm quite hungry. Hence, I look forward to partnering with you in the future and perhaps having several options as to when we can have the supervisor session. I smiled and I departed from the meeting and, of course, had lunch. Because I set my boundaries with her, 2 weeks from that moment, I received an email from her, and she subsequently called me to share different options for a supervisory meeting. Clearly, I chose a time frame that was early. I chose the 10:30 a.m. time frame because I knew that by around 12 o'clock, our meeting should end based on my prior experience. Moving forward, we did not have future challenges with meetings during my lunch period because I made it quite known to her that my lunch was important and I was not going to compromise by being a participant in a meeting that violated my need to have a lunch that is protected by our agency. Everyone is required to have a 1-hour lunch period, and I did not want to have a lunch period outside of the scope of what was recommended. As our time continued, Miss D showed her horns. That is to say, she displayed future toxic behaviors. However, every time she shared or displayed toxic behaviors or communication, I maintained my boundaries and I collaborated with key individuals to ensure that this behavior did not continue. How does that sound to you? Do you think that's something that you could do? Think about it. Yes, I believe you are strong enough to be able to do it. Let's unpack it a little bit more. What else do you think can be done? If you have a sheet of paper or notes, I want you to write down what else could possibly happen to be able to ensure that we are setting appropriate boundaries to ensure that a toxic workplace does not completely devour us. Let me help you along. It is very important to be able to ask clarifying questions whenever you're in a toxic workplace environment. The clarifying questions will allow you to be able to understand what your boss is asking of you or your toxic coworker is asking of you. In addition to that, it's also equally important to focus on what you can control as opposed to what you cannot control. By shifting your focus to what you can control, you're able to make intentional thoughts and actions to being able to manifest what you have direct control over. Again, I'm not suggesting that you ignore what you do not have control over. It just makes more sense to be able to focus on what you can control. I also highly recommend for you to, and I'll say it 3 times, document, document, document. What exactly does that mean? Document, document, document. That means whenever you have any kind of interaction with a boss, a coworker, or anyone in your organization that promotes a toxic workplace or cause you to feel uncomfortable in a way that it prevents you from doing your work, you have to document those incidents. By documenting, you'll be able to share in the future, if needed, with an employment attorney or with the appropriate entities to be able to ensure that effective action is being taken and those individuals are being held accountable. In addition to that, I have found that you must build alliances with key individuals within your organization. It takes a community within your organization in order for you to thrive. If you are isolated by those individuals who are forming cliques or promote a toxic workplace, you will find that no matter how you document, no matter how you try to exert control, no matter how you set healthy boundaries, it will be a heavy lift for you to be able to truly thrive in a toxic workplace. Hence, build your community, ensure that those alliances are actually authentic, because be careful. Sometimes those individuals in a toxic workplace, they have spies and they utilize individuals to be able to collaborate with you and to be able to share information about you that they will use in the future to get rid of you. Hence, be aware of who you're collaborating with and having alliances with, because sometimes they're not always authentic. I also recommend that you have a healthy work-life balance. Most organizations have programs that promote self-care. And if they do not, you can utilize your health insurance to be able to seek counseling, obtain a support group, or even within your organization, they may have mentors that can help you to navigate the storm of the toxic workplace and be able to give you tools that empower you and elevate you to the point where you're effective in your job. Again, the mentors can empower you, elevate you, and allow you to be able to elevate in your job once you're able to match appropriately with the correct individual. Hence, look out for key mentors, because you never know. Your ability to be able to grow is just around the corner. I also highly recommend that you see an employment attorney if things are going south. That is to say, despite your best efforts in collaborating, documenting, seeking support, building alliances, the environment still has not been changed, and upper leadership has not held those key individuals accountable for their inappropriate and destructive behaviors. I also highly recommend that you also plan an exit. What exactly does that mean? Well, an exit means that you might want to try to figure out exactly if being in this position is the right thing for you right now. Weigh your pros and cons as to whether or not it is worth your peace for you to stay in this organization, or should you really leave? You don't want to stay in an environment where you're shrinking, 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 shrinking. Or God forbid, you have health problems. No job is worth a health problem at all. Your family needs you to be well and to be able to effectively function. I also want to remind you that A toxic work environment tends to have a lot of hostility, and this hostility is pervasive, meaning it's ongoing. It doesn't happen once in a while, it's just continuous. It's very intense. And as I mentioned, it can lead to health problems, and you definitely don't want that. For some environments, they might even use discriminatory conduct, such as using slurs, curses. Just be mindful of that. And these behaviors are typically unwelcome. How do you respond to these? Take a moment, think about it. I've shared a few tips as to what I've done, but now I want you to really think about it. How do you effectively address this? I'll give you a few seconds to think. Okay, let's continue on this journey. I find that doing a behavioral checklist is really, really, really important in being able to manage a toxic work environment. First, you must identify the toxic behavior and who is displaying this behavior. I highly recommend that you get a book, or you could do this on your tablet or computer. Don't use your work computer or your workbook. You don't want them seeing this information. Once you've identified the toxic behavior, I want you to set boundaries, healthy boundaries. If you need to leave work at 5 o'clock and there is no emergency for which you absolutely have to address, then let your boss know that you have to leave at 5 o'clock. And that if there are work that needs to be done, that you will happily take care of it first thing in the morning. Seek support by building alliances, building a community at your job. Utilize effective communication strategies. That is verbal, nonverbal, being assertive, documenting incidents, as I mentioned before, and utilizing self-care practices. I'm going to go over them again. Identify the toxic behavior, set boundaries, seek support, utilize effective communication strategies, document incidents, and use appropriate self-care practices. Do you think these will work for you? I'm bringing it in. Yes? No? Hmm. Well, if these ideas do not work for you, perhaps we could do a different behavioral checklist. I highly recommend that you explore solutions to the problem. A solution could be, I'm leaving this job because it is not worth my peace. Or a solution could be seeking alternative opportunities within your organization, perhaps in a different department. Just be mindful to ensure that you collaborate with individuals within that department to ensure that you're not leaving from a storm going into the fire. Seek out from HR any professional development programs that your organization might have, and ask whether or not you can apply for these programs to ensure you have professional and ongoing growth. Also, whatever decision that you make, just evaluate the progress as you're doing that particular decision. And by all means, reflect on what is happening on an ongoing basis. Reflection is important because it allows you to take a step back and think about what exactly is happening and how does it impact my body, my mind, and my soul. How does it make me feel? Does it have any impact on me or my family? What are your thoughts thus far about what I have shared? Do you think that could work for you? Are you still a little bit hesitant as to whether or not you want to stay, or maybe you want to leave a toxic workplace? What are you really thinking? I think if you really want to leave, then perhaps you need to think about right now, what are my commitments? How do I protect myself? And when do I want to start? As you're thinking about this, I want you to really be honest with yourself. The only person's opinion that matters is yours. Remember, storms are unpredictable. They come in different forms: a toxic boss, a gossip-filled culture, unfair policies. But here's what I want you to remember. You are not powerless in the storm. No matter how your boss makes you feel, or your coworker, or individuals in the organization that are alienating you, you are not powerless at all. You are born with the seed of greatness. You have a limitless amount of possibilities and potential. You have a purpose that you are here to fulfill. Sometimes your current role and title is not the right one for you. Other times it is, and others are creating roadblocks because they see your potential and your possibilities and they want to bring you down. I remember one instance, I was in an executive meeting with key influential leaders. We had a really great conversation about the vision moving forward for our department. However, I had one varying idea from everyone else. And I sensed the temperature in the room was rising as I shared my opinion. The senior executive said, "I don't care what the policy and the procedure said. And you, Josephine, I don't care what you have to say right now either. I'm the boss, and right now, this is what we're going to do." I was flabbergasted when I heard that particular perspective from a senior leader. I knew that I was not powerless and that my voice mattered and that my opinions mattered. More effectively, my perspective was backed by our agency's policies and procedures, whether that senior executive wanted to align with me or not. I removed myself from the situation by going to the ladies' room. And as I was coming back inside, I heard her say to two other senior female executives as I approached the door, "When they rise up, you have to pull them back down." I said, "God, thank you for revealing the hypocrisy available in front of me. Thank you for revealing the true intentions of this particular leader, because now I know what her perspective is, and I am no longer in the dark." Hence, I also implore you, when individuals reveal themselves to you, believe that behavior. Don't deny or dismiss it. You are set your boundaries. You protect your energy. You are in control. You decide how much power negativity gets over you. As you step back into your workplace, stand tall, breathe deep, hold your head up high. Know that you are stronger than any storm. And with the right mindset and tools, you won't just survive workplace toxicity, you'll rise above it, transform it, and thrive despite it. You are enough. You got this. You are in control.